Hey everyone, Cody Menz here. I have another WoT's new video for you today. Obviously, no baby yet, which is why I'm here. And we got some news to go over today with regards to the Object 274A, my thoughts on that tank in the marathon, and a bit about what's happening Supertest wise, and kind of everything kind of going on here. Coming to you from my alternate web camera here, since my other one doesn't want to reboot and I'm too lazy to restart my computer. In any event though, kind of kicking things off. So the Polar Challenge started. Different tank than I thought it would be, but the Object 274A. And this tank essentially, tier 8 Russian medium tank, however, plays more like a heavy tank if you ask me. So this tank, it is a pretty, long grind to do a marathon. The main gist of marathons, for those not familiar, is, it's a lot of experience, over 200,000 worth if you grind out basically for the amount of experience you need to get from 1 to 10. 10% per discount. Honestly, if you get to 6 or 7, it's worth getting it because you get a cheaper premium tank. However, there are skill-based missions, which they added in tier 9 this go around, which is awesome. And there's also other goodies you can get, as well as additional missions if you actually own the tank and more or less, play that tank if you already own it. So the marathon itself, marathons are pretty good when it comes down to it. And before I hop into the other news, like no gameplay here, I need to keep things kind of short and sweet since time is of the essence right now for me. But this tank, is it worth getting? So I talked about this tank quite a bit on my live stream tonight, and I played a lot of battles in it. More or less though, it's a really good tank, however it's not perfect. So it feels like, honestly, like a tier 9, tier 10 tank, like medium wise, where the feel of it is nice. Like it can do a lot of things, the gun's nice, mobility is okay, armor's okay. It's pretty situational, where it feels like they're kind of taking a high tier tank, like technology wise or like feel, and kind of balancing it with the game mechanics to get down to tier 8. So HP, terrain resistance, on the move accuracy, things like that to kind of make it work at tier 8. So I don't think it's unbalanced, like overpowered, but it is very good. However, you do have to play it properly to actually get the most out of it. But I actually like it. Again, it is more heavy tank wise than a medium, but you don't have the HP of a heavy, which makes it difficult if you're not able to kind of use its armor and stuff to its advantage. But in any event, quick breakdown. Really good gun, 320 damage. Premium pen especially, and even the standard pen here, fantastic. 227 for the standard. And your premium round here, 289 millimeters of pen. That's crazy for basically a tier 8 medium like this. Gun depression's a little bit low. That's one limiting factor on this tank. I didn't notice it honestly annoy me too much because you're kind of playing it. You're not strictly hold down, obviously, because of the lack of gun depression and like playing like a typical medium, but you're kind of playing in between being a heavy and a medium tank in different spots than most mediums. But in any event, aiming time's a little bit long, and overall accuracy is actually not bad at 0.36. The on-the-move accuracy is pretty bad though, like it's terrible. That's where I use an improved rotation mechanism and a vertical stabilizer along with the rammer. And on-the-move accuracy is bearable then. It's actually not bad with all, those two things together. DPM surprisingly is really nice. That's one of my favorite things about this tank is you have damage, penetration, shell velocity 2, okay accuracy, and DPM. The guns outside of the gun depression is pretty freaking nice. I love it. If it didn't have like the -6 degrees of gun depression, if it was more than that, honestly it would be kind of broken. That's where the on-the-move accuracy being a little bit bad to where you have to compensate with equipment hurts your view range a little bit or other attributes, and the gun depression limits you too, so it kind of keeps it in check. But the gun's really nice, honestly, borderline too good in a sense, with the pen damage DPM combo. But that's where the tank, really high skill ceiling, However, you do really bad in it as well. So getting into the hit points here, it only has 1200 hit points. So 100 less than the CS52 LIS, 200 less than the TL1 LPC. Yeah, it's low. Like, it's very low. So you die very quickly in this if you're actually taking damage. Whole armor is pretty thin. It's basically all based off of angles. We'll get into it in a second visually. However, turret armor is really good. Frontally though, like it's better than the T54 Mod 1's turret front, especially like around the mantlet. You do have cupola weak spots, but the turret's really freaking nice. But the side armor is really good, and the whole armor frontally is good, but only if you add additional angles and side scrape. So it's a little tricky. I'll go over that real fast though, but the tricky part is if you're just on level ground or not adding a couple degrees to your upper hull armor, you get penned pretty much every time in the hull. It's very squishy, unlike some other mediums that have a little bit of armor to them. Mobility, this is where it's a little deceptive. 58 kilometers forward, which seems really good. However, somewhat low specific power. However, the hidden terrain resistance is god-awful. It's not worth putting a turbocharger on it because the terrain resistance is going to hold you back. And that's where this tank feels really slow, unless you're going downhill, which then it's very, very fast. So it's a little frustrating, but that's where, you know, this tank with the damage, turret armor, you know, DPM, basically it plays a little bit less like a, you can't get places as fast, especially if you're going uphill. Camo's okay, V-range is nothing special, but overall, like, the armor on this is where if you know how to use this, it's really, really good. It's not as good as for its tiers like the Object 107s, but similar shape-wise to where you have a well-angled upper glacis, pretty large lower glacis, which is really weak, and your side armor is angled, where it's angled in. So you can side scrape pretty well in this tank, and this all ricochets, unless they're hitting you like right here. And when you're hulled down on very small pieces of cover or like rubble, stuff like that, you can bounce pretty much anything except for like heat shells off of here, and your turret's really hard to pen unless they hit these small cupolas. So the armor it gives you a lot of options, so where if you can put yourself in the right situation, in the right position, in that situation, this tank has a lot of options for it, except for the gun depression. Like, that's your limiting factor, is that 6 degrees of gun depression. But you know, you got damage, DPM, penetration, armor sometimes, you know, situationally, but you do lack a bit of that, you know, gun depression a pinch, but the hit points are what really has kind of limited me, and also going uphill because you're pretty slow. But I like the tank overall. Where, you know, they definitely balanced it off of those hidden soft stats, the terrain resistance, on the move accuracy, and the low hit points. Because honestly, if they took this tank and they slapped higher hit points on it, you know, a little bit of reload time for being a higher tier, and remove the terrain resistance on the move accuracy, this thing could honestly be a tier 9 or tier 10 medium. Like, it honestly would be pretty freaking good. It would be kind of similar to like the Polish tanks in a way, where, you know, the armor's a little squishy sometimes, but, you know, overall, you know, it would be a pretty freaking good tank at a higher tier. But it's tier 8. I think it's good, but it's difficult to play if you're expecting to bounce things just kind of rolling around in open ground. It's not like an Object 430U. It's more like the Object 430 at tier 8, but even so, like, it's still, you have to position a little bit. But I like it. It's not for everybody though. You know, otherwise, like, there is the Super Chaffee that came out for those that got the well-deserved reward. Awesome. Like, I like that tank came back into the game. Overall though, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just gonna sell it. Well, good for you, but honestly, the tank is pretty cool that they give out. Alright, so in any event, Tank Rewards is going away after this month, so you have until November 30th, so not too long here to claim your stuff, and it's going on a hiatus, so where they pretty much do this every year, where they don't do it during holiday ops. However, to me, they definitely worded this wrong, and also it's a little slap in the face where Like, where is it? We don't want to overwhelm players with too many events. Well, guess what, Wargaming? You've thrown so many events at us that make you money, and you're cutting the one thing that honestly players just get free stuff if they remember to log in and claim it. It's a little, you know, disheartening that they're doing this, but again, they do it every year. It usually comes back. However, it definitely is, they worded it kind of wrong if you ask me. You know, hopefully it comes back and they say it's going to be new and improved and updated relaunch sometime in 2021. Hope they do the, you know, the best that they can and they don't screw people over. But, you know, unfortunately, maybe they're going to try to cut things out that aren't in the client. Who knows? But they definitely could have worded it better. You know, the well-deserved reward here for 2020. You know, for those that don't know, if you live under the rock, you get some freebies for logging in. You know, Super Chaffee is the new thing here, and you got a pretty cool camo on top of it too, which shows you how long you've played, which is pretty nice. I'm not going to go too much time here because I don't want the video to be too long because there's a lot. Wargaming launched Wargaming events, or launched Wargaming events, where you can create an event basically in person. Definitely seems pretty cool. However, with everything going on in the world, is this timed at a pretty good time? Not really. I wouldn't be promoting people to do events, but that's just me. But it seems pretty cool. I like that they're trying to promote community stuff. Now, the Daily Bounce is back. They've been kind of, you know, AFK a bit, you know, busy with life, to where he's back doing stuff where, honestly, compared to like WoT Express, Rykozet, you know, they post mostly the same stuff. However, you know, I do like the Daily Bounce quite a bit. Not only is it in English, yay, no translations, but usually you get a little bit more of a opinion alongside of the stuff. In any event, though, excuse all the little ads that you see in here, but basically the K91 PT Russian Tier 9 tank destroyer is on Supertest. Yet another tank based off of the K91. We already have the K91-2 that's on Supertest as well as a Tier 8 premium medium tank. Now we have a Tier 9 premium tank destroyer. There's a lot of Tier 8s and especially a lot of Tier 9 and even some Tier 10 reward / premium tanks, which next year I feel like is going to be scary. The Kampfpanzer 07 RH, basically an oscillating turret German tank that's also on Supertest, so yet another tank. Like, we're well over basically the amount of tanks they released this year for special events. We're well past that for next year, so honestly there's going to be, who knows what they're doing next year. The Charlemagne on Supertest already got rebalanced and basically nerfed. This is a Tier 8 British heavy tank. Oopsie daisy. Kind of curious why it got nerfed, because honestly it was pretty freaking bad already and they nerfed it. But again, it's Supertest. Craftwork, the frontline map, lots of changes for this for next year. Frontline most likely is going to come back around March, because we have holiday ops going up through January, then rank battles basically February-ish, and then most likely the next expedition starting next year. They're already kind of planning. New map on Supertest called Island. Apparently this is based off of a map similar to Blitz. However, large 1000 by 1000 map, basically set in the basically Southeast Pacific, I would guess. But, you know, more maps, great, awesome. I love new maps. This is a version of, so Canyon. So this originally, unless this is completely different from the old one, because it does look quite different from what I remember from it. They used to have a Grand Canyon map, which was a 30 by 30, or not 30 by 30, 30v30 standard battle map. Before they did grand battles, you know, on a live server, they had a sandbox server test, and there's a Grand Canyon map that this, I guess, pulls, I guess, you know, a little bit from, but it does seem quite different. Lots of terrain, basically differences on this map, but again, another, and this is for 15 versus 15 battles, not 30v30, but yeah, another map. Awesome. I love new maps. There should be one in every single patch. Supertest, so changes to Italian heavies. This is for the Tier 10, And all these links are in the video description too. I recommend, you know, popping over and reading all of them just so you're up to date. And also the tier 7, tier 8, and tier 9. Essentially nerfing the Italian tanks similar to when I was talking about the Object 27A back, or 274A, where they're mainly nerfing like soft stats, some reload times to try to fit them in a little bit better. Because they are pretty strong when it comes to the mobility, hold down mechanic with the auto reloader. So they're trying to fit them in because their role is definitely, it could be completely broken. So as of December 12th, most likely I'm not going to be here December 12th because of baby, but I'll be back sometime around then. There's going to be their big yearly Rototanks developer stream where they go over stuff for 2021, big announcements, stuff like that, and definitely worth watching. And also, you know, the Daily Bounce kind of goes over the Easter eggs in their well-deserved reward kind of video. And honestly, some of the stuff, so sandbox server next year, honestly, where the hell's our ammo change? Like, I'll be pissed if they don't do any ammo changes. Like, yeah, it's just stupid if they spent all those year plus on all those tests just to not do it. Basically some changes for battle pass, like these are basically guesses and stuff, but the things that scare me, so like this is where, again, like I might be here next week for my WoT's new video, I might not be, really depends on when the baby comes, but things that kind of worry me a little bit for the game. So most likely when it comes to the holiday ops boxes, we should be seeing the Italian tier 8 premium heavy tank and also the GSO 1008 TD in the boxes as the two new tanks. There's also going to be a tier 4 German tank destroyer, most likely tied to like the base holiday ops mode where you just play a few battles and you get it basically for logging it. But what scares me is hopefully they don't screw up the holiday ops, you know, with stupid gambling mechanics more so than usual. But also going into next year, you know, we had all these events and like a lot of people are burned out. Like I'm kind of burned out from World of Tanks for the first time in years, and I only play 4 days a week usually. Now I'm down to 3 days. You know, with the baby, it's been like 2, just because of everything going on. But like the amount of events, they need to do something, because they either need to like have alternate options for getting the rewards, a la bond shop, add things into the bond shop afterwards so people can buy them, even if you don't have the bonds to, at least give them the appearance of an option. But what I think is going to happen next year, which scares me, and we see this with all of the tier 9 reward tanks and tier 8 tanks, they're building up, and we have tons of like tier 6s and stuff, so they can go one of two ways. I'm hoping so they have collection tanks, that they do something that they talked about earlier this year with collection tanks, where they can release like one-off tanks instead of tech trees. Now that they're kind of running a little bit out of tech trees, but they have enough for the next like 2 years at least. Like they're talking about, so Italian heavies, British TDs, so wheeled TDs, new Czechoslovakian tanks, and I'm sure they can squeeze some other things in there, but it would be nice if they expand on collection tanks to release some tanks in the tech tree, whether you get them just for credits or like free XP or something, you know, instead of full tech tree lines. And they could also add in like multinational stuff. However, I'm a little bit worried that they're going to go down the road of like World of Warships, and this is where we'll probably see that with the black market, you know, starting next year. And also the World of Tanks Expedition and stuff, where unfortunately, like I'm a little afraid that they're going to start selling like tier 9 premium tanks, or like reward tanks, but essentially I really hope that's not the case. But the amount of tier 9 and tier 10 and, you know, even tier 8, but it's mostly tier 9 and 10 reward tanks that we have floating around, and they're balancing and finishing, they're well past next year if you base it off of what they've kind of given out this year. So they have to go somewhere, like whether it's extra special events, which I don't know how they could cram more in, you know, bond shop, yay, awesome, that would be amazing, you know, the collection tanks, or selling them. So it's definitely going to be interesting because I feel like the game has so many premium tanks at this point. They need to branch out to kind of, you know, add in a different revenue stream that isn't just selling you a $40 or $50 tank directly. Like there's at some point you don't need that 150th premium tank. So I hope, I hope they basically, think a little bit more about it, but unfortunately, we'll see what happens. But in any event, thanks for watching, guys. I might be here next week. We'll see. Depends on when the baby comes, but most likely, you're not going to see me next weekend for a WoT's new video. Just, chances are well over 50% at this point. But in any event, thanks for watching. Have a good one. See ya.